What's going on, gamers? It's your boy Richie Bon, the coach of the Colorado Cramorant in the CGC Draft League, and today I'm bringing you my Week 3 team builder for going up against the Toronto Tinkatons, coached by Juggernaut HQ. I cannot wait for this matchup. Juggernaut has an incredible team, and this is also his first foray into competitive Pokemon in any regard, singles, VGC, whatever you have it. Juggernaut is one of my favorite shiny hunters in any Pokemon community, and he decided that he wanted to try competitive VGC for the first time in Draft League, which I feel like is such like a not an easy entry-level thing to do, and he's been doing really well so far, so I'm really excited to go up against one of my best online friends, Juggernaut HQ. I think he has an awesome draft. His front office member is Zach the Snorlax, also a great online friend that I have, and I think they've made a lot of smart picks, and I think we should just go over them. Their first A tier that we're going to talk about is Hydreigon. Hydreigon is kind of their core central dragon type offensive piece. It's also their fastest Pokemon with a 98 base speed. It's really strong, it's really powerful, it has a lot of legitimate sets in Gen 9, and it is also a great user of terrestrialization. Some say it's like the poster child. It has a lot of paratypes that work really well for it. Levitate is fantastic when you can change your type into something that is a good type but maybe is weak to ground, like Poison, Steel, or Fire, and Hydreigon is the number one mon I have to be concerned about. I think it's arguably one of the best mons of the team. It's an A tier, it makes sense, it's just incredible. Amoonguss, these next two Pokemon we're talking about are like the best supports in the game. Amoonguss, we'll start with, is a crazy redirector. It's insanely bulky, it has an incredible ability in Regenerator, and it gets Pollen Puff to heal its teammates, it can redirect with Rage Powder, put Pokemon to sleep with Spore. I feel like I'm repeating some things, but Amoonguss is ridiculous. If you've played competitive Pokemon in any extent, you're going to be familiar with Amoonguss. It doesn't make excellent use of terrestrialization, but it does help keep it alive longer if it needs to be, and it's just so freaking bulky. And this generation, they gave it Leaf Storm, so it can actually do like a little bit of damage if it's super effective. Amoonguss is real annoying, and if you go up against Juggernaut and you don't have an answer to sleep, you probably lose. You need to bring something. Indeedee is another incredible redirector. It doesn't have sleep as attack, but Psychic Surge is a really cool ability. It does technically get Trick Room in this game, however, in the Draft League, we are not giving it Trick Room, just out of, it looks kind of like to be an oversight in the game currently. It doesn't really feel like it's supposed to be there, so we're treating it as if it's not there. But without Trick Room, it's still an incredible support. It does a decent amount of damage, especially with its Psychic type moves, and with Follow Me and Terrestrialization, you can just eat a lot of resisted hits, and it's just a really good, really strong Pokemon. Up next is Tinkaton, the mascot. Tink is great. Tink is hilarious. It's arguably the best typing in the game. It's got some pretty good abilities, and it has a pretty meh stat pool. It has a decent base stat total overall, but just the way that its stats are distributed aren't doing it any favors. It's reasonably fast. 94 is pretty good. It has decent HP, okay enough defenses. Actually, special defense is great, and that attack is 75, which is really, really low for a Pokemon that has a big-ass hammer. You would use its attack primarily as its offensive stat. Amoonguss has a higher attack stat by 10 points in both of its stats than Tinkaton's best attack stat. So it's pretty weak, but that is to balance the fact that it has a 160 base power Gigaton Hammer as an attack. Even that being considered, its bulk is reasonable, it has a fantastic typing, and its abilities are super good. Mold Breaker lets you use Fake Out in situations you normally can't, like against Frigoraph, and there's other moves that you want to be using regardless of abilities, right? A Pokemon that's oblivious, you could taunt or attract or something. Own Tempo is pretty cool. You can do side swagger strategies and boost Tinkaton's attack to reasonable levels and then not be confused, which is great. And Pickpocket is a really kind of cute advanced tech that I don't necessarily expect Juggernaut to use, but I would love to see it be used. But it's a tricky ability that I think even the best players are going to have to really work their team to make it work well. So I expect to see Mold Breaker or Own Tempo. They're both good. Although Tinkaton looks pretty weak, it's a B tier for a reason. It has a pretty diverse move pool, and it definitely needs to be respected. Titan's crazy. Titan's a fantastic ice type, and it's an even better water type, surprisingly. It has some really good abilities. There's a method that Juggernaut could set manual snow and get that slush rush. Thick Fat's great, Sheer Force is great. Every ability is fantastic. Its stats are excellent. Its defenses look kind of low, but its HP is so high, it's bulky. It's very bulky, especially if you change its type. Its attack is totally usable, and it gets even more crazy with stuff like Belly Drum. It's got a middling speed, which, as we'll discover with most of this team, there's a lot of middling speed, and I think that kind of leads to some strengths, but also some advantages on my end as far as prep goes. I'm not too worried about the Titan. I think I have some really strong answers to it, even if it terrestrializes, but I have to respect it, because a belly drum set with Follow Me and Didi is going to just run through my team, so I have to respect that for sure. Flamigo is really cool. I don't think it's hit the field yet this season, but it's a really great mon, great offensive typing. You're probably going to give it a sash, again, 90 base speed, kind of ballpark middle of the ground speed, but fantastic offensive typing. Some really cool abilities. I don't expect to see Tangled Feet, but Scrappy is great, hitting through ghost types. It could hit my Dragapult with a fighting type move if it wanted, which is pretty neat. And then Co-Star is really interesting. Co-Star copies the stat changes of your ally when you switch in. So if the Titan comes in and gets a belly drum, or if there's some other boosting shenanigans that are happening on this team, Flamigo can copy those boosts once it hits the field, which is pretty interesting. Up next is Houndoom. I'm quite fond of Houndoom. Houndoom was a choice of mine in the first season of the CGC Draft League in the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl meta. I'm a big fan of it. I think it really shines in draft compared to other formats. It has some really great abilities. Fire immunity is always useful. There's an ice type and a steel type back there, like and a grass type Amoonguss that you want to be protecting from fire moves. Flash Fire goes really hard for that. Early Bird is great just against sleep shenanigans, and Unnerve is fantastic because berries are really good in Draft League. If you're teching to use a type berry to take a specific hit, or if you're just using citrus berry for recovery or lumberry or anything, it's just really, really good to have Unnerve. Fantastic ability. Snarl is something that's really useful. It gets Comeuppance in this generation, which is a new move for it, which is kind of like counter, but it works on either physical or special, which is really, really cool. Houndoom's a great mon. It's pretty squishy. I can probably take it out in one hit with a good move, but I need to respect it because it has a lot of support utility, and it's pretty strong too, and its abilities are fantastic. As far as Ditto goes, there's not a lot to say about Ditto. It's Ditto. It copies what Pokemon that you have. You can run Limber, but I don't expect it. Imposter is generally what you do for that automatic transform. What's worth noting about Ditto is that it copies all of your Pokemon stats and stat changes except for HP. Ditto will always have its base 48 HP. If you give it something like a Choice Scarf, you know for sure you're going to be outspeeding your opponent. So Ditto's a pretty threatening tool. I have to be really careful about the Pokemon that I bring, and that I'm able, like, I have to kind of design my Pokemon to be able to take a hit from themselves, if that makes sense. Overall, I'm not too concerned about Ditto. It's predictable, right? Even though it can be any Pokemon that I have, I will know what it is because it will be my Pokemon, and it's going to have worse HP. So I'm not too worried about it, but it could bamboozle me. So I just have to remember and be prepared for a Ditto threat. Altaria is cool. It's a D tier. I'm not really sure what it does, to be honest. Cloud9's pretty cool for going up against weather teams like Mike with his rain, but against me, I don't really think it does anything. It just loses to a lot of my Pokemon, namely my A tiers, Dragapult and Iron Valiant. It just doesn't do anything, so I don't expect to see it. I don't want to review it too much because I am not confident in Altaria, and I don't think Juggernaut's going to bring it. Ice Cube is pretty cool. It's pretty cute. It's the option that I was talking about that can use Snowscape to set Slush Rush for Titan. Ice Face is interesting. It's similar to Mimikyu's Disguise, but only for physical moves, which is really interesting. And if it goes away and you set the snow, it comes back, which is kind of cool. Ice Cube is this is its Ice Face stats, and when its Ice Face breaks, it becomes much faster and stronger but less defensive. It's just an interesting mon. I don't think it's hit the battlefield yet this season, but I just have to remember it, that it's here and it does things and it gets water and ice coverage, and it's a penguin with a unique ability that's really interesting. Now that is the entirety of Juggernaut's draft. With that being said, let's take a look at what I'm going to be bringing. Here it is, my Week 3 team versus Juggernaut HQ and the Toronto Tinkatons. I'm finally bringing Dragapult. I think Dragapult is a fantastic matchup here. As I was saying before, as I was reviewing Juggernaut's team, his speed tiers are very centralized. They're all kind of between 70 and 90, that they're all sitting around there. For my fast Pokemon, that is a delight, that is a treat, that is a present. What that means is that I can just not invest in as much speed and just do damage in bulk, which is really, really cool. And that's what I'm doing with Dragapult. Dragapult has so much speed that to outspeed Max Speed Hydreigon, which is his fastest Pokemon, I just need 36 points with an Adamant Nature, which is so nice because I get to do max attack and a lot of bulk. So Dragapult's going to be living for a long time. I can Terrestrialize to do even more damage with my Dragon type moves. It's going to be a lot of fun. I really am excited to bring Dragapult this week. It has a fantastic matchup. I am bringing Sleep Talk. It looks kind of cute, and you might be wondering why. My logic is, if I'm on the field and I'm up against a Amoonguss, I'm okay with cooking Dragon Darts, and if I fall asleep, then I will just switch out. I will simply switch out and I will come back in later as a cleanup with Dragapult, and I can click Sleep Talk. Now, the problem with that is that if I only sleep for one turn and I don't get all the KOs that I need, then I'm stuck using Sleep Talk. All things considered, this probably isn't going to happen, but I slotted Sleep Talk just because I thought it'd be funny, and most of the time I'm just trying to click Dragon Darts. That's really it. Now, obviously, I've only set myself to outspeed Max Speed Hydreigon. If any of his Pokemon have Choice Scarf, like Ditto, I'm going to get outsped. But by the fact that I've kind of like resigned to that and have accepted that, then I can play around it more easily, right? If I see something go before Dragapult, I will know it's Choice Scarfed, which gives me good information. I don't have to play any mind games like that. That being said, I've brought Iron Valiant with Focus Sash and Jolly Max Speed. I was just talking about how I'm so happy that the speeds are all kind of in the middle, so I don't have to worry about them as much. I decided just as a catch-all, I'm going to bring Max Speed Iron Valiant. What's interesting is that with Quark Drive, if I set manual electric terrain, which I have here, I will get a speed boost, and I will actually outspeed everything possible that Juggernaut could possibly bring. And with Focus Sash, I can kind of guarantee that if I've identified a Choice Scarf Mon. I think the physical set is more useful, does more damage overall to Jug's draft. The fighting typing offense seems to be more useful than the fairy typing offense, and close combat is better than Spirit Break. I could have run a mix set, but I think this is fine. I wanted to run Fire Punch anyways to hit Tinkaton, so I'm happy with this set. It looks good to me. Max Speed is fun. Manual Electric Terrain is so funny. So it's not just for Quark Drive, it's also for Amoonguss. It's also for overriding Indeedee's Psychic Terrain, which while my team doesn't have any priority or anything, I don't want those boosted Psychic type attacks coming through, especially onto Fighting type Iron Valiant. So I just thought it was a cute tech to bring Electric Terrain as Spore safety, and also just to activate Quark Drive and boost up Electric type moves potentially. I clearly have an Electric type on my team. Is that boost gonna matter? We'll find out when we get there. I'm bringing Crocodile again. Crocodile was the MVP of week 2. I'm bringing a bulkier Assault Vest one this time around. Well, it's actually less bulky, but the Assault Vest kind of makes it bulky. It's reasonably fast. It outspeeds most of Juggernaut's team, depending on how they're trained. Pretty similar moveset, it's just instead of Protect, we were bringing Close Combat. I think Fighting type damage is really, really strong into Jug's team, and you'll see that I have 3 Close Combats on this team, just because I think it's really strong. It hits most of his team really hard. Spamming Earthquake just looks pretty good to me, although there's only one partner who can really Earthquake on. Just Ground type damage, Dark type damage, and Crocodile's just good. He's just good. Just a good mon. Intimidate is really useful here as well. There's some threatening physical attackers, and if I can just lower their attack, I'll be happy. Crocodile's probably going to mostly be like a defensive pivot for this week, and just do good damage and be useful. We're bringing Braviary for the first time. I'm very excited for it. Braviary does not benefit from electric terrain if I end up being scared of Spore from Amoonguss, unless we Terastallize to a fighting type, which is fun, and I become grounded. It not only boosts my close combats, but it would let me be immune to Spore if electric terrain was active. But also, I'm bringing Lumberry for a couple reasons. One, I don't want to be burnt by Houndoom, and 2, I don't want to be put to sleep by Amoonguss, even if I haven't Terastallized, if I'm still a flying type. I just think Lumberry is the way to go here. I don't need a normal type move. It doesn't do anything for me. It generally doesn't do anything for me unless I want to hit things neutrally, so there's that. I'm bringing Defiant, kind of just because I don't really know what else to bring here. Sheer Force didn't really help with the moves I wanted to bring, and Keen Eye doesn't do anything, so Defiant's just the best choice. I don't really expect it to activate. Tailwind's really, really good here. If I Tailwind, then I'm super extra cozy on speed with this team, and Protect's just a good move. You know, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I didn't talk about Dragapult's ability. Because there's no Intimidate on Jug's team, I didn't feel like I needed Clear Body. Infiltrator... there's no priority screens, and if there is screens, I kind of don't really care, so I'm just bringing Curse Body. If anything does beat Dragapult, here's my logic. If anything beats Dragapult, something with a Choice Scarf. If they are Choice Scarfed and they hit Dragapult and Curse Body activates, then they have to struggle. So I just felt like Curse Body was just my best option for an ability for Dragapult this week. Let's skip ahead 4 places and look at Pyroar. I'm also bringing Pyroar for the first time. I think Fire is fantastic, especially Heat Wave in the situation. Golden Cosmos and the Wind and Dragapults proved in their first week against the Toronto Tinkaton that Heat Wave is just really, really strong, especially into Titan, which is probably one of the most threatening Pokemon on the team. So just having Heat Wave for that situation is excellent. This is a really cute Pyroar set. It outspeeds everything on Jug's team unboosted, just like Dragapult. They are 1 speed point apart, which is interesting, just to make that clear so that I don't have to deal with any speed ties. But I'm bringing a female Rivalry Pyroar, and you might be wondering why. It's because 2 of Juggernaut's Pokemon are guaranteed female. Tinkaton and what's the other one? Indeedee female. Those two are always female, and because every other Pokemon on this team is like kind of 50-50 or like around there, I just thought it'd be fun. It would just be fun. This is really my dedicated answer to Tinkaton, so there was no harm in making it female rivalry. Against male Pokemon, it is going to lower my damage output a little bit, but to compensate for that, I'm bringing Throat Spray. I have Hyper Voice and Snarl. Both are great moves. We get Stab on Hyper Voice, which is very good. Snarl's a great supportive move, and I outspeed the whole team, so if I'm worried about a special attacker, that's just a really great technique to have. And then I get a +1 attack boost from Throat Spray, so I just think this is an awesome Pyroar set. I can't wait to use it. Really looking forward to it. The last mon I'm bringing is Pachirisu. I also haven't brought Pachirisu yet. We have Volt Absorb. I'm not really worried about electric type damage from his team, but it just was kind of the best ability to bring. This is a full supportive set. I was joking about electric terrain earlier boosting Pachirisu. We have Nuzzle. It will technically boost the damage of Nuzzle, but we're not using Nuzzle to deal damage. We're using Nuzzle for speed control and just for variance, right? We want to make things difficult. Super Fang is going to be our main damaging move most of the time because Nuzzle doesn't really do anything, but it does function as a 100% accurate Thunder Wave. So Nuzzle's not a bad move by any means, but it's not my damage option. It's really here just to follow me. I don't have a lot of setup, but I also just don't mind protecting my allies, right? These Pokemon just don't really care to get hit. So I thought follow me would be useful, and protect is just protect. So this is just the Sage and Park special, Citrus Berry Pachirisu. Nice and bulky. It's pretty fast. It outspeeds basically everything. Nuzzle lets me paralyze it, add variance, and Super Fan I can cut their HP in half for my offensive pieces to clean up for. Pretty simple draft this week, pretty simple team I'm bringing, but I think it definitely has the tools that I need to beat Juggernaut. I'm really looking forward to the battle. It's going to be awesome. He's doing really well for his first foray into competitive. Can't wait for it to happen. If you want to see it, it's going to be coming out tomorrow, and you should subscribe to this channel so that you'll be notified when it comes out, when the episode comes out. You are also welcome to join our Discord. There's a link in the description there. There's a discussion channel where you get access to a playlist of all of the Draft League videos that have been coming up. There's the Draft League document, the spreadsheet that you can see all the rosters and look at the matchups. If you're interested in this Draft League at all, you should check out the Discord. It's a really cool place to hang out. That's really all I have to talk about today. Thank you so much for watching. Can't wait to see you tomorrow at the battle versus Juggernaut HQ and the Toronto Tinkatons.